All right, guys, let's get into this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet and video is designed to help everyone that it has bought the non-GST version of the spreadsheet. So you're not registered for GST at this point in time. You're turning over less than $75,000 per year. And this year there has been some updates to the spreadsheet. If you purchased it last year, you will see some familiar features and some new ones. What we're going to do right now is go through tab by tab just to explain a quick high-level overview of what each tab does, and then we'll go a little bit deeper on each tab so you guys get a better understanding of what this spreadsheet is designed to do. But before we get into that, I want to thank you for grabbing this spreadsheet, and I hope that this helps you out this year. All right, we have a multitude of tabs to get through here, and overall this is a very simple spreadsheet to use. So I want to explain to you how this all works. This tab here is the dashboard. Obviously there's no data in this just yet, but as we go through and we update stuff, I will come back to this and show you what it does. But essentially it just gives you a really high level overview of where your business is at any given point in time. So you can see your income versus costs, you can see your cost breakdowns, and then you can kind of see your cash flow. So you know what should be in your bank account at any given point in time. As we go across to the next tab, it is called the tax view tab, and this is where you're going to be entering all your data. So the main thing with this one is this is where you input your data each and every week. The only other tabs that you really need to be worried about is your returns tracker and your stock write-offs, which is probably less time consuming than this one here. But we have designed this tab to be very simple and the data to flow through to all the other tabs. So you really only need to focus on this one. So you can see here, guys, that we have a week by week breakdown. We also have all your cost here, your sales, your fees, your starting stocks, and all the information that you're going to need for your tax specialist at the end of the year. We'll go a bit deeper into this once we start putting some numbers in, but I just want to give you the high level overview. All right, our next tab is the budget breakdown. Now this information here will flow through from the tax view sheet, but this is more of what should be in your pocket at the end of the week, taking away all your expenses, because there is a slight difference between your tax view and your budget view because of your cost of goods on hand and sold and all that. So this one here just really takes how much money you have got in versus how much money you have spent, and then gives you a little bit of a weekly position here of what should be in your bank account. And if you don't have that money in your bank account, you probably miss tracking something somewhere along the line, so you need to work out where that is and make sure you record that in the spreadsheet. Okay, the next tab that you will be entering information into is the returns tracker. Now this is really important for end of financial year when you come and do your figures. You want to know how much returns you have paid out because that is a deduction against your tax. So this is a pretty important tab to keep track of. All that you're going to input here is your refund amount, the fee credit that eBay has given you back, and then it will calculate the net cost, and all this returns cost actually tracks through to all the other spreadsheets as well. So you don't need to like copy and paste anything. It'll just automatically shift across to that main screen for you. The next tab is stock write-offs. This is a new addition to this year's spreadsheet, and I included this because this is an important part of most of our businesses. We use this tab quite a lot when we're buying in bulk, like 95% of stuff might be sellable, and then there's that sort of 5% of stock that is either broken, damaged, or just isn't really resaleable. And with that stock, we either write it off, or if it is completely destroyed, obviously it'll end up in recycling or disposal. And that's the information you want to be keeping here because that'll come off at the end of the year against your cost of goods on hand. So pretty important tab to add this year. All right, the next tab is tax time tab. Now this is for your tax specialist. You want to be handing this to them at the end of financial year, so they have a very quick overview of your business, and then all the other information that supports this will help them get that tax return done. So this pretty much encaptures all your sales, all your cost of goods, and does the calculation for you to work out what is actually on hand, all of your expenses, so that they can just plug it into their little calculator and wham bam, your tax return is pretty much done. There is one more tab here which is just raw data. You guys don't need to touch this at all. This just feeds through to the front page and your dashboard and gives you that really quick overview. So you don't need to touch this at all. It is just sitting there as a data tab. I would definitely not be updating anything on this because it will wreck all of your calculations through the front end. So pretty much ignore this tab. All right, let's go a bit deeper now. We're going to go into your tax view tab and enter all this information and then show you how it exports out to all the other pages so that you can understand exactly what is going to populate in all those other tabs. Okay, this is the tax view tab, and as I said before, this is the tab that you want to be focusing your energy on every single week. And you can see here that this is all broken down by week, quarterly, and also a financial year. So at any given point in time, you can kind of see where you are, whether that's on a quarterly basis, a full year basis, or if you just want to track week by week to make sure that you are actually making money, this is the place that you want to be doing it. So for our tax view tab, we have a cost of goods purchased. So this is how much money you're spending on new acquired stock in that week. So whether that's from op shops, garage sales, Facebook Marketplace, or any other avenue, you're gonna put that information for that week in this tab right here. So let's say this week we bought $500 worth of stock and we bought 100 items. You're gonna get an average cost of goods here. Now this is not necessarily super important. I know that if you're buying in bulk, this might be the way that you track how much you are paying per item and inputting that into your custom SKU on eBay. But realistically, it just gives you an overview of how much each item's kind of cost you, so you can get a little bit of an insight into how much you're spending on each item each and every week. Our next section is our total sales. Now this information is available to you on eBay and we track this week on week. And I'm just going to show you, we've just done the last week of June here because I'm filming this slightly ahead of time for you guys. So you can see from the 23rd to 29th of June on the main store, we sold $8,842.43. I'm just gonna copy that and drop it into our total sales section right here. And same with our fees. So information on fees is available through eBay sales tab here. You can see we're currently paying 19.7% fees, which is quite high at the moment. That's because we promote our listings and stuff like that as well. So I'm just going to input that one here as well. And that will give you a quick overview of how much you've sold and how much eBay has charged you for fees. And that will include all your promoted listings and stuff like that as well. I will go into cost of goods sold in a minute because that is a little bit more in depth, but I want to talk about postage. We use My Post Business and there's a great way to find out how much money you have outlaid using My Post Business. You can actually go to the transactions tab and I'll show you that shortly. Okay guys, we are in My Post Business here and we're going to go to transactions and we are going to make this 100 because obviously we send a lot of stuff. We have 3 stores attached to this one. So all we would do is wait for that to load. Once it's loaded, I actually just do a quick calculation based on the transaction data for the period of time. So I would go back to here and start at the 23rd and I would just add all of these up to get a final figure. Go back to your spreadsheet and add it into here. So let's just say for those sales, we spent $1,900 on post. Obviously that's not exactly correct, but for the arguments of this video, that is what we're going to put in there. And here's a couple additions to this year's spreadsheet. So after talking to Ethan, he kind of said it'd be great if we can break down some of the other expenses. So I've actually added in subscriptions and supplies and then other expenses to the end. So say you have a subscription to, let's say, our Aussie Thrifter Mentorship Group, and that's costing you $4.99 a month and you pay it at the start of the month, and your supplies for that month are going to be, let's say, $500. You bought some new stuff, you bought some new boxes, and your other expenses for that month are going to be, let's say, $200. I'm not sure what you're going to be spending on other, maybe, you know, that's where you record your phone information, how much that's costing you. But essentially any other expenses that isn't subscription or supplies will end up in that space right there. So that pretty much gives you most of the data. Now we're just going to go back to this cost of goods sold. So this is what we do on a week-to-week basis to give us the information to actually fill in this spreadsheet. And this also gives us all the information about how much money our stock has cost us that we have sold. So all you're going to do is you're going to go to this reports tab over here and you're going to go to downloads. Now this is under the proviso that you have used your custom SKU to track how much each item has cost you. This kind of saves you doubling up information, like entering each line by line of what items you have bought into a spreadsheet. You can just use eBay's data to give you that information. So each week by week, we're going to go to download report. We're going to go to orders. We're going to go to paid and posted. And then we're going to do a custom range based on the period of time that we were just looking at, which was the 23rd to 29th. We're going to go done. We're going to do a download. It'll take a couple seconds to spit it out for us. Once you have it downloaded, let's go over to that spreadsheet and have a look at it. We're just going to go don't convert at this point in time. So all you need to be worried about really is your item title and your custom SKU. So essentially these two tabs here, X and Y, are the tabs that you want to be looking at, and you can kind of highlight them if you want, just to make it easier for yourself. But essentially here is where all our custom SKUs are. If you have a similar custom SKU, you can actually build out a formula to remove all the information behind or in front of the dollar amount, but I haven't done this on this computer, so I'm just going to show you what I do here. So essentially I can see that this item cost me $3, this item cost me $10, $12, $16.80, you can kind of get the idea here. And you just go all the way down until the bottom and you do yourself a quick auto sum, add up the amounts that you have for that whole list, and it will spit out a number for you. I'm not going to sit here for 10 minutes and run through that. It's probably more like a 5-minute job. Okay, let's just say for this period of time, our cost of goods is, for argument's sake, $1,000. So $1,000 is what we paid for the items that we just sold for $8,842. We enter that information here, and you can also see that this side here has updated to show us how much stock we actually still have on hand. So we started with 1,000. We've sold $1,000 worth of stock, but we have also purchased $500 worth of stock. So it's saying after everything is said and done, you now have $500 worth of stock on hand, and that's the information you need for tax time. So it does all this for you on this spreadsheet. It'll calculate it all the way through and give you your information down the bottom here as well. So this sheet is essentially where you want to be entering all that information. You're going to do it week by week, and then that information is going to push it directly through to the budget tab. So essentially the budget tab is just a smaller version of the tax view tab. You don't have that information about cost of goods sold because that calculation doesn't really come into your budget. That only matters for tax. So I've specifically done this view here so you can kind of see what should be in your bank account. So we can see that we've sold $8,842 worth of stock. That stock, we purchased $500 worth of stock this week. Our fees were $17.45. Our postage was $1,900. Our subscriptions were $4.99. Our supplies were $500, and our other expenses were $200. So essentially, we should have $3,991.80 in our bank account. Now, obviously, eBay's payout system is a little bit laggy and a little bit like you might wait a day or a week, depending on what your settings are, and you might not exactly have that in your bank account because of the delay. But if that is severely wrong, then you probably want to be looking at if you're missing anything, and that might be stuff that you missed in other, or maybe you've miscalculated your postage or missed a subscription. But if you're using one bank account to track all of your business expenses, these numbers should add up over the end of financial year, and that should give you a pretty good idea of what money you actually have. All right, we're going to duck into our returns tracker right now, and this is purely when you need to refund a buyer for a purchase. And let's say that someone's returned a $100 item, eBay will give you the breakdown of your fee. So let's say on that one there, it's $19 of fees that have been returned to you. So it's actually cost you $81 in your actual out-of-pocket return costs, because you have now lost $81 of your revenue because you've refunded that to the buyer. So what that's going to do is that's going to actually push that information back to your main tab. So it's going to show up in your returns here. This information here as well is also going to be updated depending on which section you're in. So this one here will have your returns information taken off of it, because essentially that cost is going to be now deducted from your bank account. So I've kind of tried to make each tab as intuitive as possible and update as you go along. So you don't need to like update anything. You're just going to be focusing on those three main tabs: your tax view, your returns tracker, and now also your stock write-offs. So your stock write-offs, as I said before, you bought 100 items, 5 of them are going back to an op shop or being disposed of. You paid $5 an item. So let's input that you have excess DVDs, for example. You are donating them to an op shop. They're not sellable, but someone might use them. And let's say that they've cost you $25, which is a very high cost of goods for a DVD. But you can see that that's going to update here to your write-offs tab. And it's also going to give you your information back to your cost of goods, so that at the end of the year, your current stock level will be down to the actual amount you have left in your store, rather than your cost of goods total and doesn't calculate what you have actually gotten rid of. So this is an important update to this spreadsheet. We have added a few additions this year just to make your life a lot easier as well. Okay, so let's duck over to tax time, and this is essentially all that information amalgamated onto one tab for you guys. So it gives you all the information that you're going to essentially need to provide to your tax specialist at the end of the year. The only thing that I haven't really put in here is if you've done any sort of like cash payments, but you're going to track that on your cost of goods each week. I would recommend keeping a little bit of a ledger of your cash in and out. You can do that via Google Sheet. That's really easy to set up, or you could just add a little tab on the end here and just track it that way. But as long as you're inputting that information of how much you've sold and purchased into those tax view spreadsheet, it'll all add up into here as well. So you can see here our sales are 8,842. We have purchase, our opening stock was $1,000. We have purchased $500 and we have written off $25 worth of stock. And this calculation here is based on all that information and then taking out your cost of goods sold as well. So we have $475 cost of goods left on hand at the end of this period, which means if this was the end of the financial year, we would report that to our tax specialist to add into all the information. I've kind of broken this down into income versus expenses as well. So you've got your fees, your postage, your cost of goods sold, your subscriptions, your supplies, your other, and also your returns here as well. Your stock write-ups goes into your assets versus liabilities as well. So that pretty much covers off this tax spreadsheet. If you guys have any questions about this, please reach out to us on Instagram or via email or any other avenue you think you might be able to catch us on. I have tried to make this spreadsheet as easy as possible to use. It's very much just enter the information and the spreadsheet will do the work for you. And I hope this helps you in this new financial year. Thanks so much for buying the spreadsheet once again, and we will see you next time on Aussie Thrifters. Bye for now.